Concerning ancient Greek texts, the Trojan War was fought for the control of the moon, claims and thoughts. And this is creative thinking, free association, content of intellect. Why did the Trojan War take place? It's known that everything started with the abduction of the beautiful Helen by Paris. But who was the fair Helen, the beautiful Helen of Troy? According to one myth, Zeus fell in love with Nemesis and followed her everywhere in order to make her his. Because she did not want him, she kept changing her form until she became a goose. And Zeus became a swan, sexually conquered her. Nemesis became pregnant and gave birth to an egg, with Helen inside the egg. At this point, there are several variations on how the egg arrived, with Helen in Sparta, and by extension in the hands of Tyndareus. Among others, two arose our interest. Plutarch in his Symposia informs us that, according to some poets, the egg in question was seen falling from the sky. From Hyginus we understand that this egg fell directly from the moon. And who is the moon? Selene is what the ancient Greek, even now, the Greeks call the moon Selene. Most of us who deal with the subject know the three theories about the origin of the moon. A, it's a part of the Earth when the latter was cut in two by a comet. B, they were formed at the same time from the same material. And C, that it came from somewhere else. They all have their weaknesses for many different reasons. The same with the third. In fact, according to the Soviet scientists Mikhail Vazin and Alexander Sherbakov, a body as large as the moon compared to the Earth is impossible to have orbited the Earth under normal conditions, but even if it was still attracted, then it should have been an elongated elliptical orbit, as happens everywhere in the celestial world in similar cases, and not in a completely circular orbit as the moon has around our Earth. The two scientists did not simply reject the theory of attraction, but proposed another theory, D. The moon is an artificial satellite of the Earth which entered orbit around it after the sensitive manipulations of rational beings from space, completely unknown to us. Simply put, the moon is an artificial spacecraft, or simply an artificial celestial body. Besides, there is a great deal of evidence to show that the moon is an artificial body. In the ancient Greek Orphic hymns, whose knowledge, according to the astronomer Hassapis, goes back to at least 11,860 BC, we learn that someone, quote, made another vast land, which the gods called the moon, the Selene of the Greeks, and the people men. She had many mountains, many cities, many palaces, end quote. This is in complete agreement with the theory of the Soviet scientists. With the right, therefore, that Homer himself gives us to treat the gods' poetic license, to have chariots and fly, we adapt the myths about the birth of Helen. Flying chariots or flying arrows, the Greeks used to say, were in fact spacecraft. Now Helen and Clytemnestra were born on the moon from Leda with father Zeus. When the daughters were old enough, he placed them with their mother in an oval flying chariot and sent them to Earth, where they landed in the Peloponnese near Sparta. Leonidas in the 300, Sparta. There they had Tyndareus as their adoptive father. The specific information from Plutarch, Hyginus, and the Orphics does not tell us the maker or the owner of the moon, nor where it came from. However, Zeus would not have offspring in hostile territory. And since we're talking about Zeus, Jupiter that is, logically the moon should belong to him. But by the same logic, we assume that Helen, as the firstborn, carried inside the egg with her an unprecedented inheritance, that is, the ownership of the moon. With the abduction of Helen by Paris, this inheritance would pass to the other side, to the Trojans, who are indicated by David Icke to have been ruled or controlled by the reptilian brotherhood. Unfortunately for the beautiful Helen, The war was not only about her beautiful eyes, but about who would have control of the moon, which arrived under special circumstances and with a special purpose. After all, was the moon a vehicle of embarking and disembarking souls, an artificial spacecraft, or something else? And finally, who is in control of the moon today? This I've translated for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.